Welcome back to another episode of Out of Bounds on the Boomer Buzz channel. I'm your host Terry, and today talking about Deion Sanders and him leaving Jackson State University to go to Colorado. So shout out to one of my subscribers, All Day 3004. Actually, I don't know if he subscribed, but he commented, he asked me about it, and for whatever reason, I didn't think it was that big of a conversation. Just because coaches leave all the time, but it's become, I wouldn't say a huge conversation, but it's been interesting, back and forth between the black community especially. So figured I would touch on it. It does have multiple layers to it, and so it becomes a very interesting conversation that isn't simple like most things. So Deion Sanders, primetime, went to Jackson State. I don't know. I think he was there 2 years, maybe 3 years. I know he took over during the shortened season because of COVID, but so I think it's 3 full seasons. And then he just accepted a job as the head coach with Colorado, who's in the Pac-12 still, and I think they're going to stay there. And they weren't really good at all last year. So the thing, when I first heard it, I just thought I was a little disappointed with him going to Colorado instead of somewhere better, just because I thought he could. I thought that he could get the attention of a better program, but some people have said that it seems like a lot of schools weren't really willing to go for him, which is interesting. I mean, he already showed you that he could take a top recruit and bring him to a HBCU, and obviously he turned that program around. And you know, some people will go back and forth as far as the coaching job to turn HBCU around in the SWAC, but still they did it. They turned around. He brought in a lot of former players, good coaches, and they did their thing. So you know, I think as far as college football goes, we know that head coaching is like the ultimate head coach, to be honest with you, because in the NFL there's so many people and so many things that you can, you know, do, and then the draft, you got a whole team to support you on that. There's no draft in college. You got to recruit. So not only do you got to run the ship, but you got to be the face of it as you go out on the recruiting, you know, trail and all that. And so Deion, I think clearly showed that he can do all that. And it really doesn't matter where he's at. He's Deion Sanders. So not only being able to convince these recruits to come play for him, but also his connections that he used to really help and support Jackson State and some of the stuff they built. He'll be able to do that anywhere. So I'm a little shocked that he wasn't really getting opportunities at these other schools, because there's only a handful of programs that are really, you know, competing for a championship. And so there's so many schools that I'm like, would be wanting, I think, to get a Deion Sanders the same way that Dabo kind of turned around Clemson for a little bit. And so I was like, man, you know, if he wanted to go to Pac-12, why not USC or something like that? And I don't watch college football, by the way. If y'all know me, y'all know that. So I didn't know the landscape, but I just thought there was a lot of other teams better than Colorado. But apparently not. Apparently that was one of the few places that would offer him the job. But anyway, the discussion is not really about football. It's about, should he have left the HBCU for PWI, all that. To me, it's no question that the competition is different. I mean, and that's what it all comes down to, is what is the goal. And so for the goal for him is to add to his resume, it's the same with any person, any college coach that leaves a smaller school to go to a more competitive school. And usually the program's not good, and they want to turn it around and make the program competitive. And so that's why, again, like when I first heard it, it was just kind of like whatever. I thought he would have went to a better school, but that's how it goes. Like, it doesn't matter how good or how many times you win the SWAC, it doesn't matter as an HBCU. You're not going to be in the SEC. You're not going to be in the Big Ten, all that. And so if the goal for Deion is to then play better competition and to show that he can beat them, then yes, this absolutely makes sense as a move. Now the question becomes, and I think some people brought up a good point, should he have stayed at least for his contract? Somebody said at least for a graduating class. And I think that's where the conversation becomes more of a conversation because, yeah, now we know coaches break contracts and do all that stuff. They leave all the time. People go to the NFL. People go to different schools, whatever. Some coaches don't even finish the season with the team. I forgot who it was recently left a team high and dry to go to start early recruiting with the other school. And it probably happens a lot, but I do think, there's some to it as far as what Deion was preaching, I guess, for lack of a better word, what he was telling people that he was trying to accomplish. And we know he has aspirations, to coach in the NFL, but he made it seem more like this idea of coaching young men, and even when in the NFL, they'll be younger than him, but he made it seem like it was more about students. And so if that's the case, it just felt like, okay, yeah, maybe he, students focus, but also young African-American students and putting HBCUs on the map and all these other things. And I do think, it's fair to say, hey, you could have finished your contract. I always feel like that when a coach leaves. So it's no different for me with Deion. And I don't know what his contract was, but some people are like, hey, you could at least finish the contract. But the whole idea about PWI versus HBCU, look, there's nothing to really discuss here. And it was by design. Because some people get mad when they say like HBCUs are less than or whatever. It's not that it's less than in terms of worth from the students and the athletes and all that. It's less than in terms of resources. And that is an objective fact. And it was created that way to make it seem, well, number one, it was created that way just to kind of be more of a charity type thing as far as giving black people a place to go learn that didn't have to be with white people, the quote unquote separate but equal. But it was done on purpose in my mind to not fund these places and to not give it the ability to reach the type of caliber of other institutions so that people associated what they call colored people with these types of institutions that were lesser than. And it was only lesser than because they chose not to give the resources to the schools, to HBCUs like they gave to other schools, and that continues to today. And so it's not lesser than as in a slap in the face towards the students that go there or the teachers or the professors or any of that. It's really just about the resources, and we know it's under-supported, and it has always been under-supported. And so people want to make that a conversation, and really there's nothing to talk about. The facts are the facts. And to be honest, that has nothing really to do, I wouldn't say nothing, but it's not really the reason that he left. Like, the facts is, I don't know if this would even make sense, but let's just say Jackson State had the money or more money than Colorado. They still in the SWAC. Again, it goes back to the goal. If you believe Deion, the goal for him is to get his resume to get to the NFL. So he wants to play higher competition. And so it brings up this conversation about HBCUs that is important, but it doesn't really apply to this situation. In this particular situation, Deion is trying to go to a higher profile school where he can play higher competition. It's not necessarily about him trying to go to a school with more money. Because, yeah, I mean, again, it's hard to, I don't know if it makes sense, but it's hard to call that a hypothetical because typically the schools with the higher prestige have more money. But I just think it's probably other schools. Well, yeah, because you got, okay, so perfect example. You got the Ivy Leagues. Those are the ones with probably more resources than anybody. But they ain't got no competition. No one's trying to coach Harvard. And so it's not just about the money. It's not about, PWI is better than HBCU. No, it's simply about him trying to go to a Power 5 conference. And some people I've seen talk about Deion getting Jackson State to the point where they could play big Power 5 teams and beat them every year. But, it would take a long time, and you can't fault the man to say that he don't want to wait the time it takes or that he doesn't want to be, that's not the situation he wants to be in. He wants to be at one of those power teams. And so, but I do agree that you could say he could have stayed for his contract. So, but anyway, I think it's interesting. I think what Prime is doing, I don't know. It does feel stronger at an HBCU, but I'm curious to see how it plays out. Because I watched the video of him telling his team that he was leaving. I watched the video of him talking to the Colorado team, and it rubbed me the wrong way, to be honest with you. Because once you start throwing all the Christian church stuff in there, not that I have a problem with that. It's just he's making it sound like he's above all of this. And he was like, my calling is higher. He said my calling wasn't to a school or to, a certain student. My calling is higher than that. And it's just like, okay, bro, you coaching football. Like, if you really wanted to do this as like some more altruistic, then yes, you should coach at a HBCU. Or yes, you should be in the high school coaching, because that's where the real coaches are and the real impacts on people's lives. Sending people to school and getting them through high school and all that stuff. So once he starts making it sound like that rubs me a little wrong way. And it does seem a little weird to say, well, I'm going to Colorado then. But if you just keep it in terms of what it actually was from the beginning, hey, I want to coach in the NFL, then okay, his move makes sense. That's what all the coaches do. They go to a higher level of competition. So anyway, that's it for me. Go down to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for going out of bounds.